Rick Wayne. I want to introduce you to the BBF. This is the Business Brokers of Florida Association. We have listings, we have solds, we have buyers, we have forms that we work with. For example, we have printable forms, we have fill-in forms, documents that we use. When we have a listing agreement, we start with standardized edit of different listings and so forth. The words and the phrases are all neutral. They've been approved by the board of the association, by the attorneys. It's been tested for 21 years of the life of the association. Some of the advantages of working with BBF agent. Then we have a list of the members. We have different codes, commission codes, and different bulletins and different websites, billing. So it's very, very detailed. And we have our active listings, which are generally on the market because they're overpriced or underdocumented or not being managed correctly. You know, there's many, many reasons why a lot of businesses don't sell. As far as I know, I think the statistic is even when a business is professionally managed, only about 20% of them actually get sold. So I might take 5 listings and only one of them sell, and it's no fault of my own or my team. There's 100 reasons why businesses don't sell, and I'm going to try and guide you how not to do the things that don't work, if I could at all help that process. But a lot of owners haven't set themselves up properly, and there's things that need to be overcome. Certain circumstances cut out part of the market share as far as the buyers. And of course, price is always one that kills all deals when owners are unreasonable or unrealistic. I'm not saying that anybody is. We haven't discussed price, but that is the number one reason. And then documents, the lack of documents, or not a good industry, or not profitable enough, or a bad lease. Tax returns, can't get SBA lending, all of those things. And there's 100 more reasons why businesses don't sell. But for our purposes, I'm interested in the solds. I want to share with you what I'm working with so that you can understand what I understand. We have every county in Florida. There's 67 counties in Florida. I could do a search by every county in the state. I could do it any way that you want, any way in the country. But you can see what we have here. All counties in Florida. And I'm going to leave that alone until we decide to drill down to Miami. And then I have business categories. I also have subcategories. Now, I wanted to just talk about this for a minute because distribution has, so many different versions of it. And I want to show you the whole list. There's manufacturing, any legal businesses in here, and the subcategory that agents like myself have needed to sell. If there wasn't a category, the association makes a category. So over 21 years, 24,000 solds. I would say it's safe to say that all categories and subcategories are in here. So over the years, these are the subcategories for construction. We do all construction. Just to show you everything that's in here, I'm going to submit selections. So that's all Florida, all construction, all sizes, all dates. I'm not putting any date restriction here. I'm not putting any date restriction here. We don't want to look at really 21 years because that's not fair. We want to look like the most recent year or two, especially post-coronavirus, I think is relevant because the marketplace has shifted. Certain industries have fallen out of favor. Some have become more favorable. The word essential is now a thing. So minimum price, we don't want to plug any of that in. Down payment, not yet. That's really for buyers. Earnings, I don't know what your earnings are, but I don't want to over or undershoot it, so I'm going to leave that. Gross minimum and maximum, we could come back to that, million to 10 million kind of thing in gross sales, because you did talk about 3.5 to 5, 4 to 5 last year, and 3.5 to 4.5 the year before. So, 3.5 to 5 sounds like a reasonable thing, but I'm going to leave that out for the moment. All sources of provable data. Is it owner to prove? Are we projecting it? Is it part of a year? Like this year, we only have 10 months maybe. Is it an asset sale? Tax return? Are the profits on the tax returns? Yes, we might have tax returns. Or maybe no, we don't have tax returns. We need to consider all of that. And then do we want it with comments or without comments? I'm going to make it shorter for us right now. I'm going to display all construction that have sold. I'm not going to bore you with all 24,000, but as a association in the last 21 years, my team and I, the team of the association that is, we have sold collectively 1,096 related construction businesses. Now, the trick is narrow it down. Obviously, we're not HVAC. I can get rid of that. I can get rid of cabinet. Maybe your renovation. No, we can get rid of that. Concrete coating, you need to help me on that. Is that applicable? Is it not applicable? But let me go back to what I thought or at least as an overview, I identified 5 categories. I did construction contractor. Now here's concrete coating. I'm not sure if that's relevant or not. I'm going to leave it off because it wasn't in my original search that I did without you, and I just want to take a peek. So contractor general, contractor concrete for sure, contractor commercial for sure, and foundation contractor. Those are the ones that I identified. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that perhaps, unless you tell me differently, it might be a 6th one or a 4th, only 4. But take a look at these. Tell me which ones you think would be most relevant. Commercial, concrete, contractor general, construction contractor, and foundation contractor. I think that those are the ones that I want to look at. I could always do a new search for you anytime. So it brought it down to 68. I'm going to do a quick, without even reading these, just to get an idea as to what's going on. If we took the unit as a whole, they're selling the sold price and the discretionary earnings. I put an S in there as an association member. We're told to do sellers discretionary earnings. They just abbreviated it. So I refer to it as the SDE, sellers discretionary earnings. They're saying all of these 5 categories, all sizes, all time frames, all counties, 2 years, 0.15. You can call it just over 2 years earnings. So the question is, how much are you earning? And we need to look at those numbers. We would look at 22. We would look at the add backs. We would look at 21. We would look at 20. We would go from there. Average days on market is 300. Average down payment is 86%. Average rent is 1 and 1.6. Discretionary earnings to sales is 23%. So on 5 million, 20% is $1 million. So you're just over $1 million. Is that true of our subject property? Is that true of the one that we're trying to sell? And then they're saying the average sales, this is lower, right? Because they didn't get rid of the smaller ones yet. So let's just, as an example, let me sort this. The only thing I really know is your sale, because we haven't gone through the exercise yet. Let me do calculate. Let me do all of them. I'm going to get rid of the little ones and the big ones. It's the same number. So here I have contractor commercial, but I can't compare a $5 million gross to a 1.7, right? 117. So let me do this. Let me just, and I have not pre-screened these or looked at them. I should read every one of them just to make sure. But just as an overview, just to get us started, I just want to share with you. And I'll come back and do this once we narrow in on the numbers and which category you email me, please. We're starting at $1 million in sales of any of those 5 categories. And we have to remove these big ones too. But let's just see what it does to the, okay, I kicked it up. Now, this is going to bring it back down because I'm going to get rid of the big ones. Now, the other thing you should know is some of the ones that I'm going to be leaving in or also removing, some of these have real estate included. So real estate, it's like selling a house with a pool versus a house without a pool. You have to find other homes with no pool if we're not selling a pool, or adjust for the pool. And that's too hard because we don't know the true value of the real estate. So if I read through these, and let me see how many we're dealing with. Got rid of under $1 million, 2.34, so 2.4 times earnings. But if we see that these assets are very, very heavy, unusually heavy, like if I open this one up and we see that there's real estate included, I'm going to exclude it. Now, the same way I do here, when something's unusually high, like here I see 2.5 years, 2 years, 3.7, 3 years, I would go to the high ones, anything over 2, I would say. Like for example here, is there real estate included? Do they own a building? That was included. Nope. Okay, their total assets was only $25,000 and it sold recently. Sales of 7, this is much larger than yours. The earnings, I don't know what you're earning, but this could be, within your wheelhouse on 5 million at 23%. That could be. So I'm going to try and find another one that might be high to just show you. Now here, this one's in here twice, actually. And to show you why we would want to remove that, because it shouldn't be counted twice, that 3.43. Watch what happens. This number is going to come down 2.39. It's going to come down 2.36 because it was a high number was in there twice. Now, this is way too many to comp out, but it would go in and read each and every one of them. I would also try and, this one is unusually high, 4.5, probably has real estate or a building. Yes, okay, the assets are way crazy, $3.2 million. Sales are low, but the reason the price was so high is, see what happens is, you got to remove the 3.2. So I'm not seeing a building, but heavy assets. I need to know what your assets are. But if you remove this from the 5.5, right, that would be a more reasonable number, because I doubt you're including that much in assets. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But that's why the number kicked up to 4.5. If you don't have, $2.5 million worth of assets, this is going to be 2.5 or 2 or 1.5. That's how it works, because the assets are being included with the profit of the business. And if we don't have that kind of value of assets, it's not going to be valued at that. Here again, 3.5 times. Not crazy in the way of assets, only 300,000. But I'd have to go back and read each and every one of these once I have a more thorough understanding of what you think your assets are worth. If you think your assets, your used current value of your furniture, your fixtures, and your equipment, everything that it takes to generate those sales and those profits, if today's, I call it eBay value, the eBay value of what a buyer could actually buy them for on eBay or open market, I need to know what that dollar amount is. So we're not comparing you to someone including 3.5 million and you say, hey, I want 4.5 times my earnings. Well, we can't get you 4.5 times earnings because that's the only one that ever did it. The other thing is, let me go in here and I'm going to do a search for you, a little different. I'm going to do the quick and easy way. I just wanted to show you the overview. Here's $1 million in minimum, and I'm going to say 10 million over here. But I'm also going to, this time I'm going to put in minimum earnings. I'm going to say, don't show me anything that has small numbers. Now again, I'm assuming you're making over $500,000, but that's what this list is going to come back as. It's going to be a shorter list. I'm going to calculate, and I'm going to show you how this looks. Here's 2.5 times. Before I get rid of the old ones, the non-Miami ones, the ones that included too much in the way of real estate, and we're going to change it. Guaranteed some of these have buildings involved and land. I just have to go in and I have to do it with the comments, read them, remove them, and it's going to bring this 2.5 down. So I'm thinking, don't hold me to 2.5. They don't usually, nothing ever sells at 2.5. I don't know how this is possible. 1.2 is a down payment, 1% as rent, 300 days on the market. Again, this is kind of a teller for us. Of your 5 million in sales, they're saying you should be keeping about 22%. So what is that? 1.2 million, call it over $1 million, $1 million. That's what this is saying. On 4 million, 20% rough numbers are about 800, right? So 800 to $1 million, I did $500,000 or more. Now, if I got rid of some of these lower earners, you'll see it'll change it again. Let me go here, discretionary earnings. I can remove these. Let's just remove a few of them and see how it changes the math. Let's say here, 750, right? Under 815 over 635, and under 2.6, which is probably high for a $4 million, $5 million grossing company. But just to show you what it is, 2.69. If we removed on the high side, and you can't only do it by earnings, you really have to read each one of them. I'm going to go here, 1.2, 800 to 1.2, commercial contractor, construction contractor, and I got to go back and see Miami, and I can do all that. You're at 3. But now, if I go back and I do Miami, because Miami is going to be different than Lee County, right? Miami, I left the 500 million to 10 million, all sources of data, nothing. Isn't that interesting? So we don't have these 5 in Miami-Dade at any time frames. Very, very interesting. Let me remove a few items and see if that opens it up a little bit. Let's see if I was too restrictive here. Okay, there's 2. Commercial and general. You're 2.68. But the earnings is only 156, and these are much smaller. And if they had assets included, like real estate, it's going to throw it off. So I need to know your value, your used current eBay value of your furniture, your fixtures, and your equipment. Let's get a hold of that. Let's lock in if these are the 5 categories that I should be comparing you to, and what your actual earnings were. Not only what was on your tax return, but all of the benefits. Any of the personal or non-business expenses the business might have paid for. Write those out. We add them to your P&L. We come up with a more accurate bottom line. But this is 2.68, but I can't compare you to that. So here's Miami, If I do all construction in Miami, and it got rid of this, but just to share with you a little background to say 10 million, a million to 10 million, construction, Miami, all time frames, not putting dates in there. All sources and proof of financials with no comments. We've sold 14. But again, I'm going to have to get rid of the smaller ones. And just so you can kind of see here, if I did an average, it's a 2.9, which I've never, in 33 years, I've never sold a business at 2.9. Because here, look, this is 11 times earnings. It totally throws the numbers off. Why is it 11 times earnings? Well, he's only making 281. Yeah, they gave him crazy numbers. Maybe he had contracts or something. Certified, Southwest, right? 13 trucks, Mercedes, Sprinter. Very low earnings. The value is probably the 13 trucks they were giving him for that, but it was not very profitable. On sales of 3.6, he's only making 281. What is that, 8%, 7%? It's very low, but they gave him good money for it. So if I got rid of that one, because that is an anomaly, I've never seen a business sell for 11 times earnings until now. These are the normal ranges, half a year, 2, 3, 2, 1. Here you go, 2.36. And we would get rid of the older ones. That's pretty much it for right now. Your homework, please, is get me a P&L statement of this year. Please identify all of the add backs or owner's discretionary earnings for this year, what you think it will be. Are you making $500,000, 200, $1 million, $1.2 million? Where are we on that? And I need the value of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Thank you. Hope this helped you out a little bit. Thank you. Bye-bye.